Part 3 on the Sno Jet. Let's get back to this track conversion. Alright, let me show you the new track versus the old track, and you'll understand a little bit better about why I spent the money on a new track. I'm going to show you the difference between that and the new skidoo track I'm going to put in. Well, camoplast track meant for a skidoo. So here's the two tracks side by side, and you can see the length is right and the pitch is right and everything, but this view from out here gives you a good idea of how much more tread there is on that Camso track. And you know, aside from the just plain old not rottenness of it, that's the other reason I bought it. That's going to make a big difference. I mean, that's a real advantage to be able to throw a track like the one on the left on, as opposed to that original Sno Jet track. And then just thought I'd show you, I don't know if you could see this, but all of those metal bars are delaminating. The clips are all loose. There's a ton of those rivets that are missing. And I showed you earlier the rubber rod on this thing. I mean, that's actually one of the better spots right there. So this old Sno Jet track is not long for the world, and she's going to go out in the track pile. She'll probably end up as a nice track on somebody's trailer deck. That's a nice traction mat without the internal drive lugs. Alright, so let's look at the rest of the swap. So, what do we got going here? Here's the original front drive shaft. The rear's over there in the pile with the bogies. And, you know, these Sno Jet drivers, well, I don't want to use them. So, I've got some skidoo drivers, and front and rear. And one thing you'll notice, these Sno Jet drivers are 10-tooth, the skidoo's 9-tooth. Oh well, I still want to go with the skidoo drivers. These are some old skedaddler drive shafts, but I know the skidoo drivers fit this bolt pattern, so we're going to go with that. So I'm going to get these apart, harvest all the hardware out, get those flanges off, and then eventually we will transfer those flanges onto that front drive shaft and that back drive shaft. They're not fighting me too bad so far. So I will have to take it over to the lathe. These are welded in here, not on the outside. So have to take care of that to harvest these flanges. But right diameter shaft and everything. So keep going with that. Okay, I've had a lot of comments from you guys about how you love to see the machine work. Well, here's the last flange I'm rescuing. It's one of the welded on flanges, and they've been coming off just mint. So let me show you how this goes. Give it a little oil periodically. It's good for the drill bit. This is just cutting with literally with like fingertip pressure. That's it. That's how easy it is to take those off. I suppose you're wondering how to get these rear pork chops off. It's really not a big deal. Take out the greaser to be sure that it doesn't interfere with the bearing as the bearing goes by. And grab your handy super long punch. Try not to catch the seal. Get out of there, seal. There you go. Just like that. All right, well, that's probably far enough. Yep, wiggled off. Life's good. That's how you get that apart. All right, I'm back on the Sno Jet today, and I'm getting ready to set up the drivers, which is really probably the trickiest part of the track conversion, and even that's not that tricky. So let me show you what I got going on. So I've got the old Sno Jet drive shaft. You'll notice, for reference, there's some roll pin holes on each side. I'm going to trust that those are accurately placed from the factory, and I can reference those to keep my drive wheel centered. Both wheels are pushed to the right-hand side to give me the most play that I can get, you know. And then timing, well, the track is certainly helping with the timing on that too. So that should really lock it in to where it needs to be. I might tweak around with this a little bit, but it won't be but another minute or two, and I'll be tack welding this thing, pulling it apart, and doing some final welding. All right, final quality check on the front drives before I pull them apart and weld them. So I just kind of loop them in the track, give them a 180 wrap, check and make sure everything's centered, and everything's timed right, and well, it is. You know, I do some looking on the inside, I do some looking on the outside, make sure everything's just real happy, and it is real happy. So we're going to go with that. All right, I did one more quality check after that, and I actually caught a problem. So all I did was just simply put it on the floor and rock it. And it rocked. Now it's sitting out square on, you know, on 4 teeth, 2 on each side. But I actually had to cut the tack welds loose, rotate things slightly, and tack it again to get it to sit stable. But that's a pretty good indication that it's clocked correctly now. Well, there we go. She's all welded up. Got plenty of heat into her. More than enough. Ready to be put to work. Suppose I'll paint it. All right, it's been a while since I mentioned this, so I'll just cover this quick. So if you're installing a modern track, like this Camoplast track touring, you can see there's an arrow right here. And the arrow points in the direction the track is rotating. And this is obviously right, because the top of the track's going forward, the arrow's pointing forward. When it comes around the bottom, that arrow will be pointing back. The other thing is, on some tracks, and this one's definitely this way, you can see that on this side of the lug, it's a gentle slope, and it's pretty much straight up and down on the back. And that's to enhance your braking, right? So when you're accelerating, you do get some weight transfer, helps you hook up, even though you've got that gentler ramp. But your weight transfer is all going the opposite way when you're braking. So you do need that more aggressive side. Now, I have put a track on backwards perhaps once for grass dragging, and only for grass dragging, though. I mean, it really hooked up, but when I tried to drive that sled on the snow, well, the brakes just locked up way too easy. The track just slid way too easy. So don't ever do that if you're going to ride your sled on the snow. Sno Jet update. The track swap is done. The track is in, the bogies are in, and it's in the ballpark on tension. After I get it running, we'll come back and adjust that some more. So, hope you enjoyed that part of the track swap where I did the tricky stuff, which was using AMF skedaddler drive flanges on Sno Jet shafts to mount Skidoo drive wheels. Yeah, that's a lot. You could probably use Skidoo drive flanges too, but I had the skedaddler parts and I had brand new Skidoo drive wheels. So there you go. That's all done. You can see I still got to get the chain case back together, but that's no big deal. I'll bring you back and show you the chain case, at least show you some more of it, because that's a little weird. But boy, it feels great to have the track and suspension back in this thing. All right, chain case stuff. So up here on the secondary, this shaft is welded. It's all welded together, but the bearing was pretty easy to get off. I just put a pry bar under each side and pried, and she came off. It's a light press fit. And then I did have to drive it down, but once again, the new bearing was a light press fit. Over here at the top, so we got this little plastic spacer and yet another bearing. And these bearings, as well as the ones on the drive shaft and the rear axle shaft, these are all just 6205s. You know, same bearing that you usually use in idler wheels. Same bearings as a Polaris chain case. So all good there. So with the bearings changed, I'm just going to start putting it back together, and it goes pretty easy. All right, no camera crew tonight, so I am setting the camera down a bunch, but here I put this housing that I showed on there and just pressed it down onto that inner bearing. And let me try to not get too fumbly with the camera here, but this whole assembly, just like you'd think, goes right in with the shaft through that hole. I mean, it's really that easy. So I'm gonna have to set down the camera to do that, though. All right, so here's the next step. So there's this bolt and this strap that I put on. That's just holding it loose. There's one more strap and two bolts. Those bolts go in those holes, but it comes in from the clutch side around back. And after I get that in, it'll be the chain and gears next. So I'll bring you back when I'm there. All right, gear alignment. There are spacers behind these, but always check. And you just basically take a straight edge. You're going to put it on the bottom gear, and it should just line up with the top gear. So I got one tiny little tap left, but that's about it for the gear alignment. All right, got the chain on. It goes on in the usual way where you put it around the bottom sprocket, put it around the top sprocket, and push the sprocket on. Now the chain tension on this thing is cool. So I've got those 3 bolts that hold that bearing assembly on, and this is how you tension it. Pretty neat, huh? Good enough for now. So now I'll just lock down those 3 bolts that clamp it, and probably this jam nut here. And that's it. The chain case is all together except for the cover. All right, last thing I got to do on this track conversion is get the brakes together. Well, that and put the chain case cover on. But I got some brand new pads. I don't want to put new pads on a greasy old caliper, so I'm going to get some brake cleaner, spray this out. I'll probably blow it apart because the one inner pad is pretty thick and really might fit through the gap. I'm not sure. But I'm going to go ahead and get this cleaned up first, and then I'll show you how to put the brakes together. Okay, so I got my caliper halves cleaned up. They're looking okay. So there was rubber cement in here as if the old pad had been glued in. And seems like a good idea. We'll just use a tiny drop of red high temp RTV. Can't hurt anything, right? I mean, it'll just compress, you know, when the brakes are compressed back to when it hits the metal stop. But certainly going to help me with assembly. All right, there we go. Yeah, maybe we'll use just a hair more. All right. I'm going to bring this over to the vise and squeeze it in there real good. Okay, squished her in there real good, so I'm going to wipe off the excess RTV. And that ought to be plenty good. Now on this side, there is a metal pad. Looks to be blue spring steel. Oh, still got a RTV on my fingers. So there's a metal pad, and then there's these 2 pins, and this cam lever presses it in. So we're not going to glue anything on this side. The pins have a dome side. That's going to go out. The flat side goes in. All right, so I'm going to show you how this works quick, but I am going to pull this arm back off. So this nut is your adjuster, and as I tighten it, you can see the pad comes out, and then when I move the arm, it really pushes that pad out. So the arm goes on the outside of the little frame that's holding this thing in, or so I believe at this point in time. So there we've got our little frame. We got some spacers, and all my pads fall out, and my pin fell out. We'll probably be putting the pins back in again later. I'm sure they're going to fall out 85 more times. There's my new pad, and then I've got my other half with the pad I glued in. At that point, we got 2 more spacers. Is this getting in on camera? 2 more spacers, and the other half of the frame, which we are just going to leave these nuts loose for now because I think I need clearance to slip this over the lip on the secondary. All right, here we are up on the secondary. So, with this all loose, spread everything open and on it goes. All right, that's looking good. Happy with that. My pins stayed in. Gonna lock that down. And there my pins fell out. And my spring fell off. No big deal. Pick up the pieces, put it together. But that's good. So the caliper is effectively locked in there at this point. So pins one more time, flat side in, dome side out. The spring, the arm, nice washer, very tall castle nut. All right, here go the bolts. Put this thing on. Looks about right. All right. What a crappy cable. Son of a bee. All right, that's the brakes. I just need a cotter pin to finish that off. Oh, look what I got right here. One used cotter pin. It'll be fine. Well, that wraps up the track swap. Now, I've been at this for way too long. A lot of times I didn't work on it at all, or I'd only work on it for an hour at a time. But I'll tell you what, I shot the intro to this video on March 23rd, and it's April 17th today, and I'm just wrapping it up. I just finished up the brakes, put the cover on the chain case, all that stuff. So, it's been a long pull. It's hard to keep motivated when it's not snow season. So, I don't know. We'll try to keep the videos coming for you guys throughout the summer, at least one a week. That's about all I can do. We got way too many other things going on in the summer. But huge thanks to you guys for watching, and a huge thanks to the patrons. If you didn't know, the patrons support the channel with a little donation every month that we put towards beer and pizza and parts or whatever. And in return, they get to watch all the videos early. They get to watch them ad-free on Patreon. And, of course, they got their names up there on the screen. So, big cheers to you guys, patrons. You're the ones that really keep this moving. Everybody else, well, please hit subscribe. Help out the channel. Help keep me motivated. Because I do want to get this Sno Jet done by the end of the summer. I don't know what the next video will be. It's a Wednesday today. That means the boys will probably be over tomorrow. If they want to, we'll work on the Sno Jet motor and figure out why it doesn't have spark. Otherwise, well, that RXL project, maybe it's time for a teardown. I don't know. You'll know when you see the next video. So thanks for watching, everybody. And we'll see you at the swap meets. St. Germain swap meets probably the next one. And cheers.